All right, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Welcome to Innovation Delivered. Today's session powered by ShipStation. Loyal by design, creating customer experiences to keep them coming back. We're going to be sharing a lot of insights around how you can design your process to drive not just a successful delivery, but also repeat buying because of great customer experiences. I'll be your host today. I'm Cody DeArmond, 11 years here at Octane. Me and my team have the pleasure of working with thousands of ShipStation customers, helping them grow their businesses wherever they sell and however they ship. We get a front row seat to the entrepreneurial dream. And today I'm going to be joined by some experts in the space to help drive some insights that you can apply to your business. We're going to start here with our expert panel. First, we're going to kick it to Eric Banholtz, founder of Beard Brand.
Hey, what's up? Eric Banholtz here, founder of Beard Brand, and bootstrap company. Been around since 2012 and located here in Austin, Texas.
Next up, we've got Robert Metcalf.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be in the company of another bootstrap founder. My wife and I are married to May Lindstrom of May Lindstrom Skin, and we started our company back in 2011. And yeah, we're in the luxury self-care business.
Perfect. Thanks for that. And Matthew?
Yep. So Matthew Carpentieri, Strategic Partnership Manager here at DHL Express. Been in the logistics space for about a decade now, and really focused on the partnership space and hoping to do the same likes here for DHL Express.
Thanks so much. And finally, Michael.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Michael Schultz. I run product marketing for BigCommerce. I've always been in retail digital commerce for the last 15, 20 years. And I had a little stint with Nugistics and Pitney Bowes. So really sparked my interest and intrigue of the space, and looking forward to contributing to this conversation.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And a few housekeeping notes for our guests today. We anticipate the session will run 25-30 minutes. We want you to participate right along with us. So use the chat, drop reactions, ask questions. All of that happens to the panel to your right. If you run into any technical issues, roll down to the frequent asked questions at the bottom of the page. A lot of details down there. Also, just a heads up, this is going to be recorded as well. So if you like what you hear, like what you see, feel free to send the link to a friend. We appreciate you joining. So first things first, let's dive right into it. Retention by design. So I know here we focus on shipping software, getting that box out the door, but we've found oftentimes that the people who do this the best are those that are able to take this from a transaction to a repeat relationship. So the first question that we have for our experts today is focused around retention by design. What makes a loyalty program actually work? How do you build one that drives repeat purchases and engagement? I guess kick this off maybe with Eric, the bootstrap founder, and he's had a lot of success with this here with Beard Brand.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of temptations for entrepreneurs to get sold on, loyalty programs that are out there, or apps that you can add on. But I really think that the best way to develop loyalty is by delivering a remarkable product in a remarkable way to the right audience. If that is done, you will see that customers come back on the regular. And your next step after that is achieved is to think about, how do I automate the buying process? How do I make it so seamless that people have no friction points to coming back? So for us in the grooming space, it is a consumable. So subscription is a big part of what we do. But not everybody's going to choose to go on subscription. So also thinking about how you can utilize email flows and SMS flows to give appropriate reminders as your products may be going out of stock, or as you've noticed that your customers tend to make the next order, is, in my opinion, the best two ways to think about loyalty.
Love it. Robert, does that line up with what you guys see at May Lindstrom?
I was just going to say, yeah, that's the way to do it, is to have a product that keeps the promise that you make to your clients, and then for your operations to do the same. So, I don't ever want to try to sell anything to anyone. I just want to match what they want with what we have and prove them right the whole time. And so that's actually a thing that I'm underway redoing at May Lindstrom Skin. But it's definitely, if you just make it about the client, because that's all we're trying to do, is keep promises to people and make bigger promises to more people. And so that's all business is. It's all friendship is. It's all really anything is. And so if you always stay focused on that, loyalty kind of takes care of itself, because you're loyal to the client, and they don't need to protect themselves from you, because your job's to serve them. So that's my yes and to what Eric said. It's funny to realize we're in the same business. You know, I don't really grow hair, and a lot of our clients don't. But so, you know, he helps people care for themselves, and so do we. And so, you know, for a long time, we made it kind of hard for our clients to do that, to be honest, because we weren't that skilled at the native or the digital realm. And that's not our kind of native capability, even though I'm personally an ultra technical person, but I was busy building our factory for a long time. And so in the last 5 years, I think I've gotten out of the way of that. And it's a lot easier for us to just structurally keep the promise to our clients operationally, which certainly leverages ShipStation in a really powerful way. And so, yeah, I'm excited to just make more and bigger promises to my clients, and kind of, I always under promise and over deliver. And if you do that,
I want to like add on
taking care of people.
I want to build upon that, because I think, you know, there's a really important message that he put in there that I really want to emphasize is you have to think about your relationship with the customer, and not think of them as, you know, order numbers or, you know, sales volume or revenue. It's actual people who are placing these orders, and how can you facilitate those relationships? How can you foster them? How can you create community in ways that consider them more than just a number? Because that's the reality of they are. They have lives and purpose and things going on, and that's not going to be beneficial only in the sense of loyalty or coming back or higher revenue, but beneficial in the sense of, you know, becoming a better business and serving them in better ways.
Yeah, I want to yes and on top of that too, if I can, because I love that we have two bootstrap face care product companies, because we only exist to serve our clients. We don't have other customers to have to pay, like when you have an investor. And what's amazing is we have two logistics providers here who help us keep the promise, because I'm not in the shipping business, even though I have my own 3PL. And so I have to hire logistics people like DHL and the other carriers to keep the promise, where I move an asset from my factory into my client's home, right? And that's a balance sheet transaction that our balance sheets don't go to our clients' homes, but we know what they have. And it's our job to make sure our inventory moves from where we have it to where they've told us to go. And the rest of the guys on the screen here help us keep that promise when it all works well. And so that's, anyways, it's nice to see us all together. We do the same thing.
Yeah, I'd love that. And Eric, to your point around, you know, not just an order number, anybody that's been here at ShipStation over the years has heard my spiel, especially in the early days. My family owns a small business back in rural North Texas, and, you know, 2014, in the early ShipStation days, it really did feel like, you know, kind of every other phone call was helping some version of my dad, and getting a front row seat to kind of the American dream like that was, for me, what kind of hooked me on what we do here. And obviously, we're a bigger company now. We work with merchants of all sizes, but yeah, I really respect the mentality there. Matthew, does that play out with how you guys see this on the logistics side of things? I know Robert just teed you up pretty well there.
Yeah, thanks, Robert, for that. I appreciate the assist. No, I love what Eric and Robert are sharing. You know, I think, especially in my experience, you know, when you have a loyalty program and you're running promotions, whether it's during peak season or whatever time of the year, maybe niche during, you know, pertaining to your product, it's so important to consider, you know, whether it's whatever third party, you know, resources you're using, whether that's logistics or whatever, you just want to consider, you know, there's a certain amount of resources that are allotted to your brand, right? So ultimately, you know, when you're going through and you're running these promotions off of your loyalty program, you just want to consider, you know, keeping the companies that you're working with in the know. Right. I've seen time and time again where, you know, companies all of a sudden have this huge spike, and it totally outplays their 3-month average of volume. And all of a sudden now they have, you know, back orders, and, you know, things aren't getting there in a timely fashion. And that experience of that loyalty program and getting customers to come back, it's so important to consider that the experience starts from when they click on your website to when they receive the product. It's not just right after checkout. Right. And I think that's one of the things we always forget about. And in a lot of ways, logistics providers, carriers, 3PLs, we are the man behind the curtain. We're really supporting the merchant, from behind the veil. And it's really important to us that we maintain that and that we're driving that conversion for retention and not being, the source of something that goes wrong. So I would just say, keep in mind that, giving ample notice can go a long way with your providers.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that's a conversation we have with merchants every day. Oftentimes it's even less about like what the specific duration of delivery is. It's just about being transparent, keeping the promise that you have there. Yeah, so love that. All right, I'm going to transition to our next question. Maybe we're going to tee Michael up for this one. Got both the marketer and the BigCommerce expert. This is a pretty perfect question for him. Again, kind of coming back to retention and loyalty, but this one around an emotional connection. So, Michael, my question for you to kick us off here might be, how can storytelling, brand identity, consistent experiences foster that lasting customer loyalty? So you're no longer just looking at, that initial purchase, but repeat buyers, longer LTV, all of that. How do you see that from your perspective at BigCommerce?
Yeah, sure. I mean, from my perspective, the product, the service, and the experience is key. And as we look at it from a BigCommerce perspective, I think it's really that digital commerce perspective, right? And that initial first purchase, I think, is really powered by the information and the experience that you perceive on the website, right? Like whether it's the branded storefront, whether it's the branded experience, or as you go and click deeper into kind of like product landing pages and product detail pages that really tell the story of the product or service that you're offering. And I think the initial key and the hook is for me an accurate description of the brand value and what you're trying to communicate and the value and the outcomes that you're selling. I think it speaks to kind of like the accurate descriptions of the product, because I think if that content is not accurate, you will be like facing a lot of returns. And so I think it's really, really important to tell the great story up front. And that's what I love about my job. Product marketing is all about storytelling. And I think what we see right now is that you have an amazing opportunity with digital storefronts and content management systems and personalization software, where it's more about just integrating these different software packages, but it's about the storytelling that you can do through imagery, through immersive experiences and things of that nature. But I think the trick is then to translate that to repeat purchases. And I think the loyalty space, and at least from a software perspective, is kind of like a little bit on the decline, because I think it's been sort of overlooked and then sort of also replaced by like email marketing and sort of other tools here and there. And it's certainly not about just like integrating a loyalty software or loyalty tech stack there. I think for me, the promise of the brand is really around making it easy to do business with. And I remember two recent examples of one brand where I all of a sudden had points expiring, and I don't even know any loyalty program at the moment where points are expiring anymore. And not even that. Not only did the points expire, but I was also limited at how many points I could spend per transaction. And I'm sure there's margin calculations and things of that nature. But again, obviously, points are a store of value. So that was very interesting. And to the point that Matthew brought up, and I'm sure returns is like an amazing notion for DHL as well, in terms of how you manage and curate that, right? But I remember another brand, I couldn't return certain products because they were bought on a promotion, right? Or like a seasonal sort of promotion that was there. And so these two brands, I don't do business with anymore, because they made it hard for me to do business with, because they didn't hold up their promise. And I think building that initial experience and then also delivering on the promise in a consecutive purchase or a second and third subscription kind of like purchase, I think really destroyed the trust for me, like hand on heart, like destroyed the trust, and therefore I'm not doing business with them. And I think it's going to be interesting on how people are going to continue to serve those experiences up. And I hate to be the guy that brings up artificial intelligence so early in the call, but if you look at the ChatGPTs of the world, the Perplexities of the world, right? How as a brand are you even discoverable to then deliver that brand storytelling going forward? And so I think that's also something that needs to be solved in the future.
I want to piggyback onto that message as well, talking about building a loyalty program and then inevitably, deciding to make changes. I think, if you're kind of newer into the space, when you run across a decision on a way to move forward in your company, you need to think about how challenging is it going to be to undo that decision. If it's very easy to undo that, where you can just basically shut it down, or swap providers with an email provider, something like that, then move forward, move quickly. But if the unwinding of the decision can introduce a lot of risk to the business, like scaling down a loyalty program or making changes to the loyalty program, then think very long and hard to make sure that type of program is going to be something you do want to implement. So I think that is a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs could make, is just rushing into something that could have consequences down the road.
Hey, Eric, I had one follow-up on there. It's a little off script, but I've seen firsthand here in Austin, like the storytelling front. You built Beard Brand into an Austin institution. Like I've experienced the shop firsthand. How do you think through that? Aside from the points and the loyalty program, whatever your vendor is of choice, like obviously you guys have had tremendous success doing this. How do you think through that, where it's maybe a little bit murkier on the ROI or the attribution isn't as straightforward? But I've seen the success you've had with that here in Austin.
Yeah, we think about things a little bit differently than most companies, maybe similar to Robert. We've built a bootstrap company, so our customers are North Star for us, but also our North Star is the founding team, me and my business partners, and what we're looking to do and get out of the business. So at the end of the day, we also just want to do cool things. And what's the point of living a life if it's always about margin and eking out every little penny, when we could just simply do things that we find enjoyable and valuable and share those with our customers? So a little bit of what we do is guided around that stuff of, like vibe marketing, I guess is the term that people are using nowadays, but just do cool stuff. It's fun. Your customers like it. And it keeps life exciting. So I've been in business 13 and a half years, and you don't stay in business that long by grinding it out. So you've got to figure out a way to make your business fun for you and for your customers.
Love it. Thanks for that. Robert, does that line up with how you guys see it?
Yeah, I'm a huge yes and to that. I have two sets of clients, the ones on the outside of my company and the ones on the inside. And so I just make win-wins for all of us. But what's beautiful for me, I've worked with the same people now for, my employee number one just had their 11-year anniversary, right? And most of my employees have worked for me for, like the new guy has worked for us for 5 years, right? So like our core team, they're our family. It's kind of literal. Like there's, May and I are married. My sister works for us. There's a family of 3 sisters that work in our production team, 2 brothers in our shipping team, a mother and a son, 2 other sisters. And so for a long time, I thought I was bad at hiring people. But what I realized is that once a family connected to mine, they brought their whole family. And that's like the most beautiful thing that I've ever realized about what I do. And the work that I do through my wife's genius products is heal people by making promises to them. And so honestly, for the last few years, we were running out of cash and I was busy trying to solve my problem for a long time. And I started following some other people's tactics instead of mine. And now I've remembered what I really do. So I built a present factory that heals people with my wife and my family's life. And so that's the most exciting and beautiful thing that I could have built. And so especially in a time that seems like a time of maximized suffering, to know that like I can use the life of the people I care about the most to heal people is something I'm really grateful that I built.
Love that, man. That's a tough act to follow. So I'm going to hit us with a hard segue here for maybe the last canned question that we've got for the group. I'm going to tee this one up for Matt. I feel like this is in his area of expertise. So oftentimes when we're working with merchants, especially growing merchants here at ShipStation, international feels like kind of a black box for them, or they're afraid to get into it. They think it's too complicated. But then we also see merchants who take that leap, leverage tools that are at their disposal. Maybe it's not as complicated as they thought. And then next thing they know, they're doing sales that they never even knew were an option. So I guess on that front, Matt, when it comes to global loyalty, what role does international shipping play in retention? I guess, how do you see your most successful brands turning that into an advantage globally?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think in the past, international shipping has been looked at as a barrier. But I think, as we progressed, maybe the past 10 years, it's really been looked at as a competitive advantage. I've seen so many brands that I've worked with over the years, instead of just the race to the bottom of, Google ad spend, going against their competitors, just trying to get more of a sliver of the pie. They're looking at growing the entire pie, right? They want a bigger audience. They want new lanes. They're looking at their niche. Say there's a sunglass company in California. They're not just so focused on their domestic shipments. They're looking at other markets like Australia, where maybe, the sun's out 24/7, right? I think, looking at those different lanes and looking at opening it up to your community has really been powerful. Obviously, since joining DHL, what I found amazing is that the international market and all these different areas, whether it's UAE, Australia, EU, DHL is just such a huge presence. Obviously being number one in those markets and cross-border, and it's really helped the end consumer when they see DHL at checkout and having that comfort and that trust that package will get to them in the time that they expect to get it to them. There's not a lot of holdups. You're not seeing, things getting caught in customs. And I think for the merchants that we are serving, we want to make sure that we're delivering on that experience, because again, it's not about, we want to make sure that customer loyalty and that retention and that repeat buyer is able to come back through the experience that we deliver, and not because of, any mishaps or faux pas. So obviously joining DHL and being able to deliver that on behalf of the merchant, that's what's so important to me. And I know that's what's really important to DHL. Everybody has that in our DNA, and we just want to make sure that we just keep supporting our merchants and deliver on our promises that we have.
Yeah, love that. And Michael, obviously BigCommerce, global company. I've got some great friends in your EMEA office. I guess, how do you guys see the most successful merchants playing that out?
I think for us, it's really about transparency. So as you kind of like engage with a shopper or even a buyer in the B2B segment, I think it's really important that you are, number one, offering a lot of choice. So you have multiple shipping vendors, shipping providers. You highlight, even as you check out, or even better, before you check out, what are the different options, and those options may come at a different price, but at the end of the day, it's the shopper's decision to pursue a specific choice or route or things of that nature. But especially with the international clients that we're serving, it's about the transparency that you have throughout the buyer or shopper journey, the transparency of making that visible before you hit that checkout now button, and then obviously having some sort of transparency of information as the shipment is being delivered or shipped. So whether it's kind of like software where you can see where the package is, or whether it's stuck at customs, or if there's any actions that need to be done, hopefully not. But that transparency is super, super helpful. And again, back to the whole loyalty question, is having them keep coming back, because that transparency is there in that initial transaction. And then obviously you can make adjustments or changes later on if things don't pan out. And then I think companies, especially like large enterprise companies, can be smart about like warehousing, distribution management, kind of like strategies, to then say, okay, well, we've imported all of these products from country ABC. They are sitting in the US. Maybe something has been returned from the West Coast, but I'm going to hold it here. And then when the next order comes in, it might be a separate shipment, but I can actually send that in like a day or two. So being smart about kind of like some of these integrations and having like local and international inventory at hand, which is a big of a tough treat, but it helps in providing that transparency to the shopper, and then again, driving more loyalty.
Yeah, that totally tracks. What we see here is that oftentimes, especially if merchants haven't done it before, the customs documentation form seems really scary, but then they implement tools like ours and actually realize it's not that different than shipping domestically. Eric, Robert, I know both of you guys could have mic dropped after that last response, but Guys, this was hugely helpful. I really appreciate the time and the expertise, getting to see it, firsthand from the bootstrappers through the logistics and even the platform on the front end. I found this personally extremely valuable, and I know our audience will here as well. So thank you guys all so much for joining on this front. Just a few things that I got to shamelessly plug here. Of course, we've got some additional sessions coming up. I mentioned this one would be recorded and available to share, but fast follow coming after this one. You'll see further sessions of innovation delivered. If you're interested in learning more about the branded customer experience, we put together a quick demo just for you. Should have a link popping up for this as well. You'll see some exclusive offers that haven't been listed here yet or anywhere else for that matter. It should be popping up on the screen right now, so feel free to check that out. And again, if you're tuned in here, don't go too far. In 5 minutes, we've got 3 more sessions that are just about to kick off. We've got signal and strategy, how to cut through the noise in modern e-com. Also got next mile mastery, rethinking fulfillment for speed and scale. And then finally, we've got beyond checkout, designing a post-purchase experience that sticks, one that I think is particularly exciting and we've seen our most successful merchants taking advantage of. So with that, we'll cut everyone loose to the next session that we've got coming up. Thank you again for joining Innovation Delivered. And guys, thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise with our crowd today. We really appreciate it.